I'm going to talk today about manifesting abundance. Now, this has been an idea that's been around for quite a long time, in my opinion. I only need to think back to the 70s and before, and everybody talked about the power of positive thinking, didn't we? We talked about how if you think right, you attract things into your life. If you get into these positive affirmations in which you repeat things to yourself, such as in every way, every day, in every way, things are getting better and things like this, we kind of somehow program ourselves to become more successful. And obviously loads of examples are then put up about how all this works. It's mainly been born in America, this whole concept, in many respects, where there's this whole idea of, like being the empowerment idea, almost evangelical in the way these things are taught, as if, it's like you must believe in these things, and you've got to believe in yourself and believe in the power of this. And the main thing that I've seen from it, particularly with books like The Secret, which has become enormously popular, is that everything we're drawing into our life is under this heading of abundance mainly, which basically means money to most people. We attract money into our lives. So when we look at this, first of all, you have to think to yourself, well, is it just plain wishful thinking and a lot of people trying to make a fast buck on the top of people's desire to be more successful? Or is there something more behind it? Because you think about it, I mean, I'm a medium. I'm 100% convinced that mind extends beyond the brain, that thoughts go out like on wings and influence, well, in my case, connect with the spirit world, so I can talk with the spirit people and give messages. And in all of our cases, our thoughts are streaming out from us, maybe in forms of healing, maybe in forms of influence, but we're connecting all the time with all the people around us. So it makes sense to think that if I'm sending out thoughts, can I not also attract good positive thoughts to me? Just as I'm sending out, can I also attract good things to me? And this is where people start to think, well, if we think correctly, and the idea is that particularly if we put a very powerful visualization out there, like seeing ourselves healthy or seeing ourselves successful or seeing ourselves as the great lover or whatever a person wants, then that vision becomes empowered because we add to it emotion. So the idea with attracting abundance is often this idea you must put emotional feeling behind it. So as far as I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're doing is basically sending out really greedy thoughts and putting strong emotions to it. Now, so, because everybody seems to want to make things, they want it simple. They want it easy. You don't want to put any work in, I want to become enlightened like that. Yes. Okay. That's the spiritual one. I want to become rich like that. I don't want to put any work into it. I want to become healthy. Well, give me a pill. I don't want to sort of look after my health doctor. Give me a pill to take this problem away. So it's all shortcuts, isn't it? It's all shortcuts. And if you think about it, what their people are hoping for with the idea of abundance is basically what I call greediness. It's about, I want all these material things. And the energy that works best, I think, for that type of thing, often is the negative energy. You think greed, laziness, sort of shallow thinking, that sense of entitlement, they often go together with very negative sorts of thoughts. I mean, I've been watching a lot of things on the TV about the Holocaust recently, and I'm very interested in, for example, how the Nazis and Hitler in particular and his inner circle were very interested in the idea of using negative sort of magic almost to try to push themselves into a position of power. And actually, that's a little bit like the same thought of abundance idea, but instead of using nice I'm happy thoughts and visualizations about how nice I am, they use the dreadful power of mass thinking to push a political agenda. And I think the negative energy was also enhanced by the death and the bad energy that came from the hatred, you know. So these things have a very powerful energy, and surely if one wants to attract abundance, wouldn't unpleasant, nasty, almost death-like energy work better than the sitting around with a sense of entitlement, hoping everything comes to you, right? So I'm just taking things to the extreme here, just so that we can sort of get an idea about this. So do we have a sort of a power over our thoughts as well, just by pure wishful thinking? You know, most of us don't have any control over our thoughts. When people want to manifest abundance, most of the time they can't even manifest and hold a thought for even a short period of time. So you would have to have a very powerful sense of concentration to truly send enough energy to manifest abundance in your life, I feel. And again, it's this easy routes that everybody wants. You know, we want a quick shortcut to make lots of money or be rich. And, you know, and you'll see lots of videos out there that say, you know, how to become successful with these 3 easy steps, and it only takes 2 minutes a day, and you will attract into your life everything that you ever want. Well, I think if you were to think about it, I remember reading a phrase somewhere that someone said, I think, God punishes us by answering our prayers, right? Because if you think about it, if everybody's prayers came true, what awful things would appear in this world? You know, if it all just happened, everybody's prayers came true tomorrow, you know, I think it would be a pretty weird sort of existence. I don't think it would be sort of the bliss of what you would expect. And I think people forget that not only when we can attract things through our positive thoughts. You know, I'm sure that if we think positive, our bodies get healthier if we think positive. This is like the placebo effect, which is not just the, you know, psychological con of some sort. It actually works. We think healthy, we become healthy. I think if we think healthy for someone else, we can make them healthy. This is what spiritual healing's all about. And I think if we have an optimistic view in life, I'm sure that does attract better things into our life and attracts better people. And I think it's important that in order for those things to be enhanced, we have to surround ourselves by positive people, because other people can have a major effect, I feel, upon your advancement. You know, you can have all the positive thoughts in the world, and you get one rotter, one bad, negative thinking, energetic person, and they can cause tremendous harm, not just for themselves, but for the people close to them and everybody that comes into contact with them. And I'm surprised sometimes you often find that, you know, you find that friends and people that you know and that harbor all sorts of horrible things and thoughts and jealousies and angers and resentments that you don't notice. You would hardly notice it. And sometimes those things are with them all their lives. And those people are constantly rubbing off on you all the time. And they might have been with you all through your life, you know. And I think another issue that these abundance ideas forget, and you know, we might have to talk when we talk in a moment with everybody here on Zoom, we can think about this as the ways around it, but it's karma as well, you know, because if I had completely clear karma, as it were, all just positive karma in my background, the karmas can be easily misunderstood. So I'm putting this in very vague sort of terms, but karma plays a part. You know, some of the obstacles that come into my life are the negative karma that I brought forward from previous lives. And so that has an effect as well. Karma ultimately is there to help us to find freedom. Karma is there as a liberating force, ultimately. But on a superficial level, karma is also an obstacle in the way to abundance. So maybe if we want to find the real secret of finding abundance in life, we have to first address karma. And then the other thing I think is important is the motivation. Because if the motivation to have good things in life is greed, if the motivation is the sense of power, if the motivation is, for example, things like lust or whatever, you know, all those things that are kind of the selfish type of energies, would the universe truly manifest if that was the case? Because my thoughts are also that if we're going to attract things into our life, the universe won't give things to us unless we are worthy. in a way, perhaps unless our thoughts are pure enough, unless we are ready for it. It's a bit like I said at the beginning, God could punish us by answering our prayers. And then similarly, the energy we send out always has an effect. So if we're sending out greed vibrations, like these sort of abundance type of teachings seem to get us to do, I just don't think that could work. From what I've understood, if we do things, we send out thoughts of love, we send out thoughts of compassion, we do acts of generosity, we're more concerned with sharing and wishing good for others, perhaps. Maybe, does it perhaps have more power than the selfish energy that comes from this thinking with books like The Secret and so on? Should we not only be thinking about the good of others rather than just the good of ourselves? And should we not also extend that not just to ourselves, to our family, our friends, but the whole of life in general? So those are the other questions that I would ask too. And finally, I think one of the most important things with this whole sort of teaching around about the idea that if we send out thoughts, good things come to our life, and success and power and gain come to our life, is what is it we're looking for? We're looking there for external things. We're looking for things that can bring us sort of temporary happiness. And from everything I've learned, the only way to true happiness is to find it within ourselves. It doesn't come, in my opinion, from it. We can cry all the way to the bank like Liberace did, but it doesn't, the external things don't ultimately bring us the satisfaction, the love, the contentment, the peace at all. It can only come from an internal connection. And I remember Sai Baba said, money comes and money goes, but virtue comes and virtue grows. And in many respects, I mean, that has been a touchstone. I put it on my, I have that actually written on my accounts books that I send to the accountant. It's written on the front as a quotation. And he took it on board actually and got interested in Sai Baba. But I thought, well, is that not part of it also? That perhaps we are looking for happiness in the wrong place, and that the true abundance has to only come from within ourselves. It makes me think also of the Bhagavad Gita, which the Bhagavad Gita, for example, which I'm sure Sheila and some of you read, it tells us to give up the fruits. That the way to bliss, the way to divine understanding, is to no longer seek the things of the world, but to embrace them and know that it's all one, and that you give up the fruits of your actions. You do things for the sake of it. You don't do it for the thought of good karma or the thought of good reward. So those are my thoughts, because we talk about manifesting abundance, and they call it the secret. They call it this special secret that we can learn if we pay the price and buy the books and watch the videos and join the workshops. But the true secret, what do you think the true secret is? What is the true secret of happiness? What is the true secret of abundance? What is the true secret to make your life full again? I think it's more connected with this idea of finding the message within and awakening, rather than it is getting and forgetting. So there we go. That's my first thoughts. So I'd be grateful if you join in now, guys, and see what your comments are. Any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I'm reading a book at the moment on the Akashic Records. It's called The Akashic Records Made Easy, but it's anything but easy. The author there, she says that you have to do quite a lot of meditation and learn how to go back into your past lives so that you can see what's actually causing your lack of abundance, or things are repeated in your life all the time. You can actually see from your past lives the karma that's actually causing that. And she thinks that if you can change that, I haven't got to the bit how you change it, but
That's what we want to know.
get to that bit and I'll let you know if it works. But yeah, so yeah, but she thinks if you can change that, then that is how you generate more abundance, or you stop people being cruel to you, or intimidating you, or whatever, is happening in your life that you don't like. So
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot in that, don't you? I mean,
yeah,
okay, what they're talking about is the akashic
Recording in progress.
record. We are ourselves the akashic record, actually, in many ways.
yes,
Nice to see you, Genevieve, there.
yeah,
We our very body is an akashic record in many respects, isn't it? If you think about
yes,
it,
oh yes,
every cell in our body,
yeah,
we could make a clone out of, clone Craigs out of every cell in the body. We have in every single part of ourselves the whole record of everything that's been here some millions of years ago. I'm carrying the genetics now of people that walked the earth millions of years ago. That colors the effect of my color of my eyes, the color of the skin, the way I think, my behavior, everything about us is a result of other lives that have been before. And same too on a spiritual level. We bring forward the vibrations from the past and I think we contain that in our physical bodies too, in the spiritual body, as it were, in the spinal system particularly. So just as we have this condition where we're born with a certain body, but we also have the control over it with our certain behavior and how we can go through life. Surely isn't that the same with the akashic record, that we bring forward a certain amount that is like our body, as our karmic body, as it were, and we have to use our willpower, our positive thinking, our actions, our thoughts, our feelings, our meditations to make changes in it.
yes. The author makes a point though of going back to look at your past lives to see if things are being repeated. If you can do that, she says it will actually revolutionise your life. But I'm waiting to see if that happens. Yeah. It might, but I think people are making a lot of money out of the manifestation business. They are.
Yeah.
They're going on YouTube. They're making video after video, and then they say, "Click here for a free course." And if you scroll down it takes you hours and hours to scroll down the blooming page until you get to the end, and it will only cost you £1,000 or whatever it is.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean they're just making money hand over
Yes.
fist.
Craig will do it for 999.
Oh right, okay, I'll go for Craig then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think they've all got to make money. Of course, everybody's got to make a living, but I think it does get out of control, doesn't it? That's
oh
that's
yeah,
the worry about these things.
yeah, yeah.
So my understanding of the Akashic Records, Pat, is that, and if you read the works of like Dr. Brian Weiss, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was like a Harvard trained physician.
Yes.
He started regressing people. You don't have to actually do anything. All you need to do is regress back into that life and re-experience whatever it was that caused the trauma. And that quite often is enough. That's all you need to do. You just need to connect the dots between that past life trauma and the current, how it manifests itself in your current life. And then, that can be all it takes.
Yeah, you must be able to see, maybe what caused that in your past life.
Yes. Yes.
And know what you were doing that was causing that.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things is we need to counter what we've done by the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that I think is really, but I'm mad keen about the nadis and all the rest of it. I mean, the idea there is that the remedies we're given are given to us because these are the things we did in our previous lives, and therefore the thing to do is to do the opposite, to give a charitable donation at a certain time of day, to do so I and things like, and various rituals and pujas and things like that. So my thoughts are that in many respects, the best thing we can do all the time is just to keep doing good acts. Whatever we've done in a previous life, whether it be whatever specific thing it might be, it's not just the memory of the past life. It's the essence of it that is left, not the actual part. We forget the memories of the past life, but the essence comes through. There's an Indian word. Where is it? I wrote it down somewhere the other day. I've forgotten it now. It's what was it called? Vasana. That's it. Vasana, which is like our essence that we carry into this life.
Yeah.
And that's Vasana. That actually means smell, a smell. And we are like that scented smell, or we're like that dirty, horrible smell, depending upon what we've brought here into this life. You know, sounds like we've got a bit of interference coming in here. I think it's yours, Nancy. Actually, yeah, that's better. Or Sarah's perhaps. No, it's Sarah's. Yeah. Okay, so we have this essence, don't we? And this, so it's not. I would kind of debate whether just recording the past life would be enough. I think we have to get to the essence of what we are, you know, and work on that. And maybe the simplest and easy way is, like I talked about, bad thoughts from people and things like that. I always think the easiest way to overcome evil in life is progressing in the good, to work hard with the good in every, and we all know what that kind of is. It's all different for each of us, but to try to be a good person, think good thoughts, be a good person in all possible ways you can possibly be. And I think that's generating good karma for the next life and for the future in this life, perhaps, but it's also countering any negative obstacles that might be coming into your life as well. So it's simple, it's easy. And we don't even have to remember the past lives that Dr. Weiss and others have told us about. I mean, your thoughts, you know, I'm not saying that's the answer, but I don't know what others think here.
Craig, I have a few thoughts, and I'd love to hear what others, you know, have sort of encountered or what they come across. But I think the first step is to really know what you want. And many people don't know what they want. I mean, how often is it that last week what we wanted is not what we want this week? Or just an hour ago, we wanted to eat something, and an hour later, we want to eat something different, right? I think most people in their lives may not really know what they want to achieve in their life. So if you keep doing U-turns with big and small things in your life, maybe even if you try to manifest something last week, you might not be, you might work at it, but if you're not consistent or clear about what you want, you're going to do a U-turn tomorrow or next week or the next hour, and it's going to cross what you wished for just before, right? So I think that's a big part of it. I think a lot of people haven't really discovered what they truly wanted. If you notice, most people are quite unconscious in a lot of things that they do. So there's no clear direction about what you truly want, like no mission in life, if you know what I mean, right? And again, that goes back to your point on karma, because karma can obstruct that or prevent you from sort of finding that or seeing that or reaching that. Now, the other aspect, I think, to manifestation is, I think it involves a lot of energy work. Actually, if you truly want to manifest something. And for most of us who are not Sai Baba or of that level, it will require like deep, very deep meditation beyond thought, beyond, I don't know, layers of the self, into a place where visualization is a very simple way of putting it, but you're actually putting energy that's not just emotional energy, but I think energy behind it to create what you want. And that is also assuming that you've reached that level and have some understanding of how that works. And most people would need to have a deep, consistent spiritual practice to actually touch, I would say even touch that level of, can I call it meditation, but it's really very deep meditation. I don't know how many people meditate here, but in my experience, you know, you can feel an energy, and it can be quite intense, and it takes quite a bit of practice to get used to it and be still. And I'm constantly practicing this, in my own sort of spiritual journey. So I can feel that. So, I think if you really wanted to manifest, you would have to go deep, and it would have to be an energetic sort of work that most people, maybe they don't, they don't do this, or they don't do this regularly, or they don't have, I don't know, the experience or the guidance or the teacher to kind of do that, right? So that's my thought on this. And sometimes it's funny because the way I got into meditation was really through prayer, because I was brought up a Catholic, to be honest. But it was through that, and then I began to realize through that you could get into a very meditative state of prayer, But that was in the very, very early days of, sort of my spiritual path, if you want to put it that way. But it was through sort of that, and then it developed, and you sort of just understand more and more this meditative practice, which is why I sometimes think when we discuss things intellectually and we do research, it's all very good. But that when you try and explain the mystical and the spiritual in words, you kind of sometimes feel that you get away from the actual experience of it, that the doing is actually the authentic kind of experience of it. But the talking, sometimes I feel I get away from it when I try to express what it's like to others, right? But I think this manifesting thing is it's a deep thing, and it requires, I don't know, some degree of self-mastery about what you really want in your life, some commitment. If you don't have that spiritual, if you haven't reached that energetic level, you would at least have to have commitment, like constant commitment to a goal that you wanted to achieve. But even that, in the, manifesting something spiritually, you would need that commitment and that energy behind it as well. So those are my thoughts around this. And it's based on my own experience, on sort of what I've observed, or my perception, or what I see, or the path I've walked. I only know the path I've walked. I don't know the path everybody else has walked, right? So these are just my thoughts on this.
I think that's really good, actually, because that upon what we focus our attention grows in strength, doesn't it? I think that's one of the important things I think we should carry with us. And I think one of the things you said there that's really important is that we need to focus, don't we? We need to, inwardly nowadays, people are completely unfocused, that nobody can sit in meditation and sit quietly. We're all the same, and we were constantly distracted by our social media, and it's very hard to hold the attention nowadays. And I always think I like to practice meditation like you do, but I also find there's one particular form, which is yoga nidra, that I find is particularly powerful for helping to manifest. It's a simple technique where you lay down basically, and you put yourself into a super deep relaxed state of meditation, but of relaxation, by letting the body go into almost a painfully relaxed state. And when you drop into that state and the mind is silent, the body's silent, and everything's absolutely still, you can then drop a little seed into it, they say. You drop a seed into this silence, and when you drop
That's
that,
right.
and you know that when that seed is dropped into the silence, it's going to grow. It's not going to come tomorrow. Right. It's not going to come next week.
And the skill is to formulate that seed as you truly intend, and it's not just a thought, it's energy behind it of a certain kind that's even beyond emotion, which I think it's like a thought. But it takes meditation and practice to kind of understand that, you see. How do you express that?
Exactly, because you said to get to that point, it sounds easy, doesn't it? And it is kind of easy.
Yeah, it's not.
It's easy and hard at the same time, because you've got to do a lifetime of meditation to get into that point where it's so silent that and even knowing what the seed is meant to be is also quite hard. But we forget to do it sometimes, and I think it is a very, very, very powerful technique indeed. I think it's tremendously powerful. And I also have to pick up on the other thing you said, Elise, which is, when you kind of talk about these things and intellectualize these things, we're using the wrong tools to talk about it in many ways.
Exactly.
Because all the time, we're all thinking with mind all the time. The mind up here, the brain up here, our memories up here, everything's up here. I'm really, like I said, the whole body is filled with ourselves, isn't it? Now, just like I said, every cell can become another one of us. And every cell and every part of our body has within it not only our evolutionary history, but also our karmic history and our past lives and our multiple. We are the akashic record, and so I think we've got to come at it like you say. We've got to come at it more with the heart, and I think we've got to come at it with practice.
Yes, exactly.
Can I just ask something? When you meditate or before you meditate, do you actually, I try and send out some healing and love to the world before I try and meditate. I find it helps tremendously. I try and send healing to all my friends and family who I think need it. and to everyone in the world who needs it.
I think that's a
I
lovely thing
think
to
I
do.
don't know if anybody else does that.
Yeah, definitely, I do too. I do. Sometimes at the end. I sometimes do it at the end. So the end, if you do it at the beginning, it stops you being disturbed by all the thoughts of other people,
Yeah.
and your attachment to the thoughts of other people. So that's a good point to do it. And maybe to do it also at the end is also good because it sends any remaining energy that you've not absorbed out to help others, like healing thoughts, for example, can also be powerfully projected. And when you are in meditation, Pat, all of us, isn't it? There is, like Elise said, a really special energy that is very hard to
There
describe.
is.
Yes.
Goodness gracious, it's like a physical energy, and it can be so intense you can twitch. But I mean, if you're really practiced, you won't twitch. but and the best way to describe this for people who don't meditate is, who are you beneath your thought, beneath your emotion? Most people live in the realm of thoughts and emotion in the physical bodies, but meditation enables you to access a place that's beyond thought, beyond emotion, into a certain space within that's also very vast, to be honest, and pulsating with energy. So you can find that, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, trying my best to express this, but the idea is you've got to start to look within. And it comes in little steps, I think, for most people. Minutes, half a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but it's there. It really is. And it's a very powerful, wonderful, and beautiful thing. So I would encourage everybody to sort of try that. And the books that you read may not be sort of the best guides to doing this, and it can't be forced as well. You shouldn't force your mind to go into certain states, I think, but it's something that everyone should try just for a minute, just for a minute. If you don't do it, that's my thought on this.
Yeah, surely
don't ask me
it's
how
simplicity we need, isn't it? Simplicity.
Yeah.
We don't need complicated
books and
all the rest of it. I mean, you just go into the silence. You said you did it through prayer, which I think is another nice thought, actually, because not everybody's into the idea of meditation. But I think people that do it through prayer too. I mean, I always think of prayer is asking God, and meditation's listening to God in many respects.
Yeah, well,
depending what you call God.
Yeah, Craig, what I'd say is, when I was younger, I only knew prayer because my parents are Catholics, and I was brought up that way. But I discovered over time and through the years and a bit later in life, like, gosh, you can get into a meditative state through prayer. But now I don't start with prayer. I just start with meditation, and it can come quite quickly because it's the practice over the years, I think, that's enabled that to happen. But it's an amazing thing. I would encourage everybody. I'm speaking from the heart here. Everyone should try this. Get away from the books, the social media, all of that. Just go within for a minute. Tell yourself it's just a minute.
I get into meditation through Qigong. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's also quite.
It puts you in a meditative frame of mind. The lovely slow movements that you do, and the breathing, because you start the breathing, and then after that it's easy to go into meditation.
Yeah, and it's also energy work as well, Qigong. It's actually also energy work with the masters and all that, if you learn from them. But I don't practice that. I live behind a desk, right? So I'm probably in need of physical yoga.
I think meditation, everybody has to come at it in the way that suits them best, really, too, doesn't it? Because we're all very different. I think one of the easiest ways is a bit like I described earlier, just learning to get into an extremely deep state of relaxation can be a step into meditation. I think for some people, music can be a way into meditation, although, I find it distracting to have music on at all because you're looking to get into the silence. But for many people, there's different ways in, isn't there? And visualization can be another way people can go in, as long as you've got something that can act as your anchor, as it were, your focus. This is what we were saying. You have to have, the mind has to be focused, but it's not like the focus of heavy concentration. It's a gentle, relaxed focus. It's an attention. It's almost the attention that something gives you that's beautiful at the same time. And I think it's very hard for people to understand, what is this meditation all these people keep talking about? You know, am I actually meditating or not? You know, and you know it when you're there, but it's impossible to describe. But I would say it's close to the idea of finding, first and foremost, that inner peace. So that you can go beyond the entrapment within the mind all the time, because it's the mind that's holding us all the time. It's the endless inner dialogue, the endless clatter.
The size. Is she bigger or smaller than me?
It's important to turn your mics off if you're not speaking. So any other thoughts on that then, anybody?
Oh, very sorry.
That's all right.
I was wondering, Craig, about manifesting. I mean, what if you're trying to manifest something that is just patently not in your best interest, or it's something that's not, you know, like for me, I have a strong sense of the things that, you know, are going to happen in my life. I've been told a lot of things that are going to happen. A lot of them have. If I try to manifest something that's actually not ultimately destined to happen, you know, how do you reconcile those two kind of ideas of like sort of, you know, predestination, but then manifesting something that's not on that predefined, you know, pathway?
Not quite sure what you mean by that. I mean, we can manifest anything, can't we? We can manifest bad things in life too, of course, can't we? I mean, we can manifest, if we constantly have obsessive thoughts about something, you know, you make things happen by repetition as well, you know. So I mean, meditation and the silence, like we've been talking about, I think is the secret. That's the way to manifest. Endless repetition in the mind of something positive or something negative can help, you know. And I think, you know, if you think, oh, something's going to happen because I've already think it's manifested there, if that's what you mean, then we all the time, I think we have to just counter it by the positive thoughts we send out. I'm not quite sure I understood your question.
Yeah, sorry, I probably didn't explain it very well. So say like I have a belief system that, you know, you come into an incarnation and what you're going to achieve in that this lifetime is mapped out. So it's already predestined.
So who predestined that? You see, you predestined that then. I mean, anything that's been predestined when we come here would have been set up by ourselves.
Yes, correct.
So therefore, anything that wants to be manifest or changed can
Yes.
also be done by oneself. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's not set in stone. I mean, I don't think destiny itself is set in stone. You know, when people come to see me for readings and things, they want to know what's going to happen, you know, and particularly they want to know it's going to happen. It's all going to be all right, you know, and you're not going to say to them, oh, I see everything ending up terrible for you, because the good thing is we have free will, you see. And without that free will, well, we might as well not be here. It might just, the universe might as well play on automatic pilot, because there's no need for any of us to even have any conscious thought, because it would just play itself out. But it's free will that seems to generate consciousness, I think, in some respects as well. Interesting thought. But also we have the ability to move over the map of our life. And that the map of our life is kind of laid out. That's how I look at it in imagery terms. And some of that destiny may be there, but I have the choice which road to take. So even if all the roads seem to point to this disastrous outcome, actually there might be a shortcut round it.
Yeah.
And although I think things like karma have a lot to do with it too, because we might be on that slippery slope of karma, at the same time we do have a certain amount of control. And I think the more we become awake, the more we become conscious beings, the more we're aware that we have control, then we start to take that control. But most people are kind of on automatic pilot because they sleepwalk through the world. And that's why I think it's important to always, you know, this again, where meditation comes in tremendous, because it helps us to wake up.
Thank you.
That's my
Okay,
thought.
I have some thoughts. I've used a technique called switch words. Has anybody heard of it? Twice I used it, and twice it worked. So it's, I don't know how to describe it. There's a lady called Kat who's created it, and it's basically a set numbers that she offers, and maybe a kind of set of instructions. It might be, you know, saying that, and as it was in my case, that I wanted my husband to have a good office. He was looking for a new office. And it's usually in an image. And I just thought, let me try it. You know, I didn't really expect such success, but I had a very bizarre situation. So what happened going back was that my husband was looking for an office, and he was really excited because he thought he'd found something after a long time, and he showed it to me. And when we got home, the estate agent told him that, no, it's gone. Somebody else has taken it, and I'm really sorry. So I felt really, really sorry for him because he was really, you know, looking forward to this. It was ideal. It was like 5-10 minutes up the road from where we live. And I thought, let me just see, you know, what I can do. Can I manifest something? And I heard about these switch words and I read through and I thought, okay, this is good. There's nothing bad about this. Let me try. And they have various printouts. So I printed it out and there was a manifestation for an office and there were various numbers. And I was told to chant that word, those words. Ordinarily, people do this for months. I just did it for a couple of days. And then something very strange happened. We got a call within days. We got a call that there was this office and it was even closer. And would we like to go and sit? So I said to my husband, yeah, I'll come along. And it didn't click at that time. I just thought, okay, this is just luck. But here's the bizarre thing. When we got there, I can still remember it now, in the huge meeting room, right on the floor in the corner was a manifestation, not the same words that I had, but it was exactly the same type of image. So obviously, we found out later there were two sisters who owned the property. They had believed in this concept of switch words, and they had done it as well. And I just thought that was amazing. And I walked in the room and I saw it in the corner and my mouth just opened because it was on the floor. And that was a really amazing example of a manifestation that worked. I'd also used it earlier. I'd had an argument with somebody and we hadn't talked for over a month. And I really wanted to get in touch with that person. And I used the same manifestation. Let me tell you, it took me one day only. One day only, and that person rang me. And that is why I used it for my husband this time. Now, I don't know, I'm not somebody who meditates. I'd like to, but I have a strong intuitive feeling about numbers. Even in my own life, I mean, a few days ago, Craig, you were doing the numerology discussion. And for me, I'm born on the 29th. My son is born on the 29th. I'm married on the 29th. So I have a real strong parallel with numbers as well. So this manifestation was numbers and of course a statement within an image on a piece of paper. But I just wanted to share that because I thought it was really strange how that came about.
Well, these things happen, don't they? I mean, we can use all sorts of techniques for this too, can't we? I mean, this is kind of like sympathetic magic or good magic, isn't it, really? Yeah. I needed something. We wanted to buy this particular thing, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but that I had I had one of the pujas done to Jupiter, right? And what we wanted completely fell through. But the next day, something came that was 10 times better. And I thought, oh, you know, and I thought it's even better than what we thought was the best we could ever achieve, you know. And these things do happen. I'm sure that there's an energetic level. I think in a way, you know, I'm a great believer in the idea of coincidences as well. I'll get fascinated by them. And particularly this idea that Carl Jung put up of the idea that synchronicity, you know, there's this a causal principle, he called it, you know, something that kind of makes weird things happen in a way. And really the whole idea of like using the I Ching or using the tarot cards or using any oracles is all based on this idea that there's nothing really random, that all these things fall out in accordance with the energy of the time. You know, like I'm very interested in the I Ching. I do it on my readings, and some of you've had readings with me, but it kind of talks about the energy that's around us at this present point in time, the way that the Tao is manifesting around us. You know, I like to talk about it as being like spiritual weather, you know, and I think if we can work with the spiritual weather that's around us at that particular time, then a thing can manifest more readily if the energy is right around us. So, you know, certain times the energy is not quite right. Maybe it's something to do with astrology. Maybe it's something to do with us. Maybe there's something going on that's not quite right around us. But then a certain change comes and it's like you can feel it in the air, you know. Gamblers feel it. That's Lady Luck's with me, you know. But I think it's something that's we perhaps have to take into account a little bit. I find the I Ching helps me to find those times when and how to act appropriately in the right time, you know. So it's not just about doing the ritual or doing the thing. You did it, I think, and I think with me, we did it at the right time, you know.
I strongly agree with you, because in Vedic astrology, of course, we have something which is very different from Western astrology. Western astrology looks at transits, when planets move into certain houses. As you know, we do as well in Vedic. However, the big difference, one of the big differences, I should say, is that we have these periods which could be your lucky periods, etc. So right now, in the autumn of my years, finally, I've gone into probably the most favorable period, or dasha, as it's called, which is Shukra, Venus. And I happen to be Capricorn ascendant. So the Saturn is good friends with Venus. They are friends. And so it's very interesting. A lot of my problems have gone away. It's also very good for my children, my progeny, my relationship. You know, they will succeed from it. And my son's exams were good. You know, a lot of that karmically bad period was gone as far as I'm concerned. So I agree with you. And in fact, I have been told by good astrologers who have even consulted and spoken to Indira Gandhi, who used to be the Prime Minister, her son Rajiv Gandhi. They've actually consulted their whole families. I was told, don't make certain decisions about your work, etc., until December the 26th, which has just gone last year. Don't do it until then. And I deliberately waved off. And I've noticed a lot of people have come to help me for work reasons during this time, which I didn't, you know, ask for. They've just come in. So I do believe that. I believe that we have auspicious periods, and equally so, there are inauspicious periods within that, and you have to be careful.
Yeah, I'm coming up to some good shastras too, I believe. I've been told as well. So again, it's taken time, but I think it also works on the world as well, doesn't it? You know, this is what the concept of this idea of the golden ages is about. That, you know, we are living in an era at the moment where rationality, materialism, and so many of the negative things like greed and things have been dominant for a long, long time. And sooner or later, a time comes when those things have less influence in the world, because it's almost like the balance has changed so that the positive things can dominate more easily. And I think we are coming to a point where there's going to be a change round, you know, to what I'm so sure there's going to be. We're on the threshold of a golden age, and I think everybody's been saying that for such a long time. But you can feel it sometimes, and I think it comes. It's exactly the same as what happens in our lives. You know, certain things become easier at certain times, and I think any idea of manifestation really should take into account astrology, particularly the Indian astrology, because as you say, it does account for this idea that, you know, sometimes Saturn can be a real malefic influence upon you. You know, it can really hold you back when a bad Saturn position is there, but you get it in the right place, and it can help your knowledge, it can help your spiritual progress, it can give you strength, and so, you know, the right time for our actions. I wish we all had access to really good Indian astrologers. Still got this cough. So any other thoughts?
Some people seem to be naturally lucky, don't they? I don't know whether they sort of instantly manifest things. But, you know, nice things seem to fall into their lap. You know, we call them jammy devils over here. But, yeah, but it just seems to happen. I don't know what your
And
thoughts
it's often the horrible people too, isn't it? It seems like it, actually. But in a way, I think I think the worst thing is when nothing much happens in your life. Actually, you know, I think that's the worst, because at least if you're on a bumpy road, you know that in some ways you're spiritually progressing a bit. You know, this important. Obviously, your life has got some importance because you know, things are happening. You know, and things are changing, and if things are happening and changing, life is progressing. For me, I think the worst is always when it goes on to standstill. And I think some people, maybe they're just lucky, maybe they did good things in previous lives that
maybe.
they did, you know, but even though they're miserable buggers now, you know.
Well, yeah. I was just
I
thinking,
always think that just means they have to come back a whole lot of more lifetimes, and then people who choose a harder path.
I think that God gives his hardest lessons to his best pupils, someone quoted to me once, which is often, I think, quite a good, perhaps reassuring if you're having a hard lesson. But that's often the case, isn't it? I mean, I think people that had an easy life, I often wonder also whether it has something to do with some people come into this life who had not had human incarnations before. And maybe some people walk through this life, although they've got all the full human attributes, they're still wandering around the world like a herd of sheep, or they're coming into the world like they're a tiger, you know, and their characteristics have not really formed of any refined way, but are more still just manifestations of some primal type of energy. It's another thought, you know. Right. Well, I don't know. We're going to get into sort of any more thoughts, guys? Well, I think I think we'll finish it soon then. Yeah. So yeah. So you put up. It's called switch words, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. I'll look up that on the internet, I think. And yeah. So I think we can. It's interesting how we've come kind of around a whole load of interesting thoughts here, I think, about this idea of manifestation that we talked about. And I'm sure, I don't know, how do we conclude it? I think from all of it, the thing that I pull out most is that the way to do it is you've got to get beyond the material. In order to make things manifest in your life, truly, really manifest in a reasonable time in your life as well, you first of all got to have the non-attachment, I think, to the material world. You know, not be greedy about it, not be thinking I must have this, I deserve this, I'm owed this sort of thing. But to look, I think, deep inside oneself. And I think when you get into that inner silence, all those sort of things that are so important to you when you're in your ordinary life suddenly become less important, don't they? You know, you don't feel so hungry when you're meditating. You don't feel so, your need for having this or that in life becomes less so. You're less emotionally charged. And I think you get to a point where there's a more deeper sense of being connected with the great inner peace that is behind all existence, where it doesn't really matter that much, actually, because it's all there, it's all manifest, it's all perfect, you know. But then I think when we get to that point, that's where the real power comes, when we've connected with that deep peace that lies behind things. And we can get into it through meditation. I think we can get into it also by very, very deep relaxation even, and letting the mind become still. And like I said before, I think then we seed it. Then we seed it. We need to know what that seed is. We need to know what it is we really want. And if we really, really want something, that seed will survive there, you know. But something horrible, a greedy, nasty thought won't survive in that deep state of peace. It can't take it, you know. But something that is filled with some form of compassion, some form of love, something that is good not just for you, but for others as well, those seeds sprout easily in that space. And I think it's a power that we all have, but we all often forget about, isn't it? Well, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody now. And just since I'll probably put this up on YouTube, I'm going to say to people, if you're enjoying this and watching our patrons here having a chat on Zoom, why don't you become a patron too? This is the ad, folks. And you can come and join us on Zoom and share your thoughts, share your knowledge, and enjoy meeting some really lovely people. Okay, so I'm going to say bye to everybody. Bye for now.